Sounds that way.
With an express clause and the trust instrument.
Oh, yeah, if it's in the trust instrument. I could say, for example, the trustee is allowed to retire after being a trustee for 5 years. So after 5 years, if it's in the instrument, then they can just retire without any stress. And if anybody have a problem, the trustee will just refer them to what? The instrument. This said I can retire in 5 years. This is the last day of my 5th year, and I'm out of here. That's what the instrument is all about. Okay, so the instrument can direct it. Anything else can lead to the retirement? Friction, yes. Between whom?
Beneficiaries.
Yes, that's usually where the problems are, between the beneficiary and the trustee. Sometimes beneficiaries have issues with the settler if they're alive. Sometimes beneficiaries have issues with the settler if they're dead even. That bastard, this is all he left me, rather than saying what? Thank God he left me, anything at all.
And for the rest of your life.
In many cases.
Just continue.
Of course,
Forever.
of course. Okay. I remember when I graduated high school, I may have told you guys, man, my mom, who was my trustee for those first 17 years. Parents are trustees, aren't they? Aren't they responsible for their children? Who are the beneficiaries? The children,
Mhm.
for better or for worse. Okay, so she was a trustee, so she said, see, the story of my mom is like so many parents. My mom didn't have no university education. She had to leave school early to go to work. In those days, back in the day, 1940 something and all that stupid stuff. Okay? When just being black was a problem. Not to mention all this stuff that you guys can do these days, especially as females. Being a black male was a problem then. Still a problem now too.
Yeah.
Because they're still stopping black men in certain parts of the world. What are you doing? It's nothing. And they'll stop a black male before they stop a black female. So this thing has always been crazy. But anyway, she was one of them. So so when I graduated high school, she said, I've done everything I can. No trust fund, see? No trust fund. No bank account. She didn't have any. She just is like working hard every day, like so many other parents. No, none of that. And since I was a guy especially, I had to figure something out. Like so many people in the world, then and now and before. The point I'm making is, yeah, if you happen to be the beneficiary for anything, be grateful that somebody even thought about you.
Mhm.
Some of us are not like that. We get stinky.
Baby,
Yeah, greedy, funky, argue, jealous. You got it. All the egg that kicks in. All right. So yeah, friction. That's really where it came from. Any other reasons for retirement? Okay, tired. Why not? Tired.
Probably the trust is.
Or if one of the beneficiaries say that they done the trust.
Yeah, if you can get the approval of all. There'll be exam somewhere else. I'm already shouting. They've been telling me that for the last 25. Spoken to them, and okay. As soon as they leave, what I do? Say what I normally do. Talk this way. Yeah, the beneficiaries can agree for them to retire. Even if it's not here. Or maybe suppose the trust, all the assets of the trust have been, yeah, or disposed of. There might be nothing else to be a trustee for. So you say, hey, all the assets are gone, the beneficiaries are happy, there's nothing else, blah, 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 I'm out of here. Okay. So yeah, your text gives you a whole lot of reasons why the retirement of a trustee can occur. So now we're on the other side of retirement, which is the removal of the trustee. Now, the removal is a little different from the retirement. Removal seems to suggest that you don't have a choice in the matter. Over here, you choose to retire, generally. But removal, well, that's a whole different ballgame. By the way, anybody knows who won the midterm elections, the House in the US?
Not yet. They were still counting? Yeah.
They're still counting?
I know it was like 213, 230 something.
Who had 230 something? The Republicans? Good. He goes, "You're a Republican?" I said, "No. I just kind of support persons who want to do some fundamental conservative proper stuff, like stop changing little boys and little girls and vice versa. Stop telling children they can be whatever they want to be in terms of who they were born to be, and so
I
on."
don't like is that abortion when they pass.
That's not the only one I don't like. That's the one on the top of the list I don't
top
like.
of the list, yeah.
They have a lot of stinky
Other
stuff,
ones, yeah.
okay? No Bible in school, no, so they have a lot of stinky stuff, the Democrats. A lot of people either don't seem to be aware of that, or they're playing crazy as usual. Just like the people outside the ark. You don't wanna know, it's the stupid ark you're building.
And Marianne King. We're always trying to get it.
Oh.
It's too late.
That's how it's gonna be with a whole lot of stuff today,
Late.
sometime in the future. When crap kick in, we're gonna wanna fix it, and it's gonna be too late. 30 years ago, when I was a youngster, very much a youngster, that we had discussions about illegal immigration even then, see? And a couple of people asked my opinion, and I was giving my opinion on illegal immigration, like we should try and stop it at all costs. Some of us since had the audacity to say, "So do you hate other people?" See, that's what we do when we try to get our way. I'm like, no. It's nothing to do with what nationality people are. I have no beef with anybody, no matter who you are, what color you are, where you're from. The problem though is when you do not control anything, it gets what? Out of? Now here we are 30 years later with a growing problem that now it's too big to. And one day, sorry to say for you youngsters, that is going to become an animal that you guys are gonna have to confront one way or the other. We still playing crazy with it. Let me say sending people back now, but we should have been doing it, what, decades ago? Not because you have anything against that. If you want to come into the Bahamas, try to come in what? Legally.
Even though you were saying last week with the Chinese.
Yes.
Milan,
Yes,
that should be something
that
they
will
should
be.
wanna
it will.
Actually, everything sounds like it.
Flip it on us.
Because,
Look
The
at
point
FTX,
is
they should
almost-
have-
yeah,
Oh.
and look, let me just tell you,
Bad.
let me just tell you, youngsters, something for your own edification. In all of those things, the common denominator is no,
Money, power.
not no government, money.
The digital asset, they said it was hard to regulate because it moves so fast.
Everybody knew that,
Yeah.
but we still allowed them to come in unrestricted
Yeah.
because we were thinking about the money, the property they're buying, the money they're donating and all this. See, money is always
Mhm.
the common denominator with some sidekicks like power,
Mhm.
see? And some other sidekicks over here. But see that? Make no mistake. That will be your greatest adversary. One of the reasons why we have frictions with beneficiaries and trustees about what? Always money or money-related issues. Always, 95% of the time. When we sell our soul to the devil, most of the time it's for oh, we just want a couple dollars. Even you don't have to be rich, we just want a couple dollars, more money, extra money, some more money, more, see, whatever it is, see? We're all good until we run into money and then all hell. All right, so yeah, now we're going to the removal of the trustee. What are the results? Everybody, I'm surprised, I don't know. I'm surprised nobody's called in yet, even if there's an issue.
Nobody even said anything.
No, that's what's interesting. Can you tell by, let's see if anybody's there?
It says no. One participant. Let him mouse. Come here.
Check with Miguel. I thought they said COVID was over though, but here we are back in the thing. Then Australia said they have a fourth wave.
Really?
Yeah, I saw it the other day, people are running around saying all kinds of COVID all over Australia. I agree. I'm thinking, did we take off our mask? No. It's on that part of the road, it's not over here anymore.
like you say, money. Everything has to keep something in it.
Now you're getting the point. We'll even take people, cause people to take off their masks just to make sure the money's coming in.
Right.
Because see that we say the mask scare people and they don't come. So we say, we don't have any more COVID here. Everybody's mask is off, see?
Yeah.
Bring your money.
Yeah.
See, it's the same again, even if it's going to cost us our lives. The hell with it, as long as the money comes in. Nobody's saying money is not important. It's just the damage it does through us. The things we're prepared to do for it. Unfortunate.
Things we can- I guess like the job.
Nothing wrong with money now, as long as you keep money in context. If you like to travel, that's okay. Nothing wrong with that. Okay? As long as money does not get the better of you. Money is for travel, money is for education, money is for food, money is for all these things. Nothing wrong with it. But when money starts to change your whole nature and your character and your perspective and your belief, see? That's when the trouble starts. Okay? And a lot of us swear no amount of money will do it until they get some money. And then suddenly funny things start to, and then they're in denial. It's not true.
Saying me.
Oh, yeah, it's not me.
He said that probably reach out to somebody to see why they not online.
Miguel?
Yeah.
Okay.
He said, but he can put on the computer. So, okay.
Things on the doggone computer now. No more box.
Oh. Volume up. Class. You have the list, right? That's the the numbers that
All the numbers on this, you see. I was just checking with Miguel to find out. Okay. I have a couple of numbers here. Who is, let's see, who was on the island? Can you see that? Any one of these are all local people.
I
Right?
don't know that.
I'm looking to see if I can find somebody.
You have a class, this is one class, I don't have a list. These are persons?
These are some of the persons.
I
This,
don't know.
these are all the people here, but I don't have the.
I know she used to be online, this,
Yeah.
She's be
Yeah,
online.
Ashante, Alicia,
those who's be online, right?
right.
But let me, you have the,
I don't have, see, I don't have
No,
them
it's
on
not
this
the
list.
same list. I know
This
we
is the
did
local
write our
list.
number down though. And our email.
For me?
but it's the same link, the link doesn't change, I mean,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They just need to click on it, Miguel, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
All
that's
right, let me
weird.
see.
Let me see if I have it. But they should just be able to. Any local people on this?
No.
It's a different.
Look it up.
Mhm. I don't have it this way.
Have a list.
They should, and they should have the link from last week. So I guess,
This ocean.
yeah, even so, if they had any difficulty, somebody would have called.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's say, for example, if I didn't show up to class yet, somebody's, I'm here, we don't see, like that, they call.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I'm assuming that, yeah, something interesting is going on. All right, so let's pick up then with the removal side of the trustee. And since you only have two persons today, we'll start with Siobhan.
No problem.
Okay, removal.
The court may also remove a trustee where he is unfit to act, refuses to act, incapable of acting. The court can remove a trustee without replacing the trustee. See Letterstead versus Rose. 9 Act Case 371. The removal of a trustee by a court is normally based upon the actions of the trustee, which may be due some dishonesty for which he may have been formally convicted or some financial irresponsibility with regard to property under his trust or by him becoming a bankrupt.
So there are three reasons right off the top, then let's recognize them. The trustee can be removed because of some wrong act that he has been what, convicted for? Okay, conviction. Or what's the second one?
Bankruptcy.
Yeah, bankruptcy might become a bankrupt. The idea here is if you apply for bankruptcy, then you are financially irresponsible.
That's what the guy did,
Yeah,
yeah.
You
yeah.
have no choice, that's a lot of money.
Sam, well, part of that is
Mismanagement.
that, yeah,
'Cause they
maybe.
said what happened was they said that, like, our banks, reinvest the money and whatever. He was reinvesting, people who invest in his company, money in the crypto in different markets.
Yeah, well, see, that's my point.
Exactly, and that crashed.
And why?
'Cause
And
he
what?
shouldn't have done that.
Of course not. The question is, was that just mere inexperience or that was just another big fat rotten egg of activity?
I think it's both.
I think, yeah.
Because
He's
like,
experimenting.
right, it's the crypto is something that's new. And you
No,
wanna-
not that new,
I mean,
I've been from like, the end, like 2010 or so.
that's.
Yeah,
And
relatively.
They sent got rich off of that.
Yeah, but I feel personally that they still don't know the ins and outs.
No,
It's
they
just a
don't.
Computer
Still don't.
crunching numbers to say, okay.
No,
this
we
good
don't.
And this bad.
And then
you
to
know?
remember too, with the crypto, too, they said that, let's say the digital, something can say, oh, you get $50, okay, I want to invest in your company, you have this $50 million. Oh, wow, Siobhan doing good, you can invest, but that's only, like you said, the computer put that figure down.
Right.
Man, anybody can put, anybody can put crap anywhere.
Right.
Even with prospectuses in the real world, where you can go drive someone, touch someone, they still do egg. What do you think in the dark market called crypto? There's a reason, if you look up the word crypto, look, anybody watch Superman?
Yeah.
What's the thing that makes him be kryptonite? It's spelled differently, but it's still creepy.
Yeah.
Crypto means creepy. Okay? And I don't care how they try to big it up. It's moving too fast with too little information about what the hell's really going on. And there's a reason for that. Because if you catch people before they catch themselves, then you can get rich before they figure out what's going on. This is nothing new. Not could, have. Nobody knows how much money Sam has stashed away. Even though he's acting like he is so downtrodden, sorry. Really? Of course not. These, listen.
What happens now with all those properties and things he bought?
Well, the company is going to go into liquidation. There'll be a liquidator. They'll have to try and sell the properties and see if they can get as much money back to persons who invested as possible. So who the hell with them as usual? Go find another? Sorry, I just said that so you could remember. Employees, man, when companies are closing down or going into liquidation, employees are lasting. And now, in fact, employees are sometimes not even on your mind when the company's open, when they want to save money in any particular year. What do they say? We need to get rid of 10%. Like Google, this is Google or one of those huge, Facebook, I think, wasn't it? Yeah, got rid of some 13% of their staff, 10 to 17,000 people around the world. Go find another job, who cares? But they didn't shut down, they're just trying to save money. And whenever a company is trying to save money, the first thing they do is cut staff. See? Staff, cuts. By all means. So nobody knows what that guy is really doing. What they need to do is start by investigating him.
So what is the Alameda? What is that? Stop talking about Alameda.
I think that's who buy his company.
It's the name of a
They were
company.
supposed to research that before, they bought it or something like
No,
that.
they bought it after all this gone down. It's just that I guess Alameda brought it into the forefront that this would happen to the FTX company and this would we buy into.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
A lot of people bought into it because FTX is considered the second largest crypto exchange in the world
Yeah.
behind Binance.
And exactly,
yeah.
and Binance didn't bail on it, or Binance is something.
No, Binance is not going to bail out something they can't get proper information on. And they didn't bail them out because they could, the due diligence showed that they couldn't verify what the hell was going on.
No rich people I know, oh, come into this, come, I'm saying, oh, no.
Of course,
Get $500.
yeah.
I gotta see my money, like,
Unless you have money to lose,
No, that was FTX.
be careful with anything.
But I would prefer to invest that in like Royal Fidelity.
You should.
or
See,
something that
leave the
shows
crypto
safe
tough
for-
stuff to rich people who could have
Yeah.
based money.
right?
People who are hardworking, don't mess with that crap. Stick with the traditional.
Mhm.
Now, when you feel you're in a group where you could waste money, then you go into crypto
They
nonsense
got out.
and derivatives and all that speculative
But I feel
nonsense.
that they thought it was fast money. You know that type of
Yeah.
way, like I give you $10 million.
Listen,
like
young
the
people,
Plus more.
Lem- let me tell you something. Is there such a thing as fast education?
No.
Excuse me?
You learn it every day.
Oh, for how many years?
You do
Many. And you never stop learning. Is there anything as a fast a child growing up? No, it takes a child 18 to 20 years to become a what? Adult. What am I saying? Watch out for fast anything. Fast money, fast marriage, fast anything.
It's bad.
Usually never good. If it's fast, it's probably too good to be true. Because good things are never designed to be fast. Not really. And everybody gets into fast anything, have a long story to tell. Fast. All right, we're getting fast. That's the first thing I told my children. I don't care who has what, who won what, who inherited what. You stick within your ability to do what you can do and let the process take care of itself. And whatever that is at the end of the day, so be flicking it. Whoever Tom Jones, your friend who went to school with you, your college buddy, Mary Ann, whatever. Yeah. And get in a lot of trouble with all that stuff. All right. So if you're convicted, if you're bankrupt, is there a third reason they gave?
Yeah, the court may remove you if you're unfit to act.
Yeah, if you're unfit, for any reason. Okay, the court can remove you if you're unfit. And unfit can be a number of reasons, including mentally unfit.
Mhm.
Let's not forget that. Okay, keep going, Siobhan.
A court may also remove a trustee from a trust where there is found to be continuing friction between the trustee and the beneficiaries. Example, for substantial overcharging by the trustees. And the fact that the trustees will have a difficult task of administering the trust in the best interest of the beneficiaries if left to continue to act as trustees.
Yeah, overcharging, isn't that interesting? Back to money again. Uh-oh, somebody showed up. Who showed up? Ashay,
Yes, sir.
nobody told you time changed?
Sorry, 1 second.
No
Sorry
one.
about
Yes, she's doggone. A couple of
Hello.
things. Hi,
Hi. Sorry,
Hey.
I'm late.
yeah, but we have excused you since you are doing a million different things. We hear a little infant in the back and all that stuff, so that's okay, just join us on page, whatever it is for you
71.
guys.
Page 71,
Page 71, Ashay,
Okay.
unit 8.
the third paragraph on the removal.
Yeah, we're
Okay.
talking about the removal of the trustee, paragraph number 3. Let me know when you find it. Found it?
I'm sorry, Miss Wilkinson. Just give me 1 second.
You know, life is an egg, especially when you have children, and it's sick. You'll find out in due season. Yeah,
I just hope that helps.
Yeah, that's important.
yeah. Too many struggle by
Social
themselves
life.
for one reason or another.
Sacrifice so much.
Yeah, so the first thing you do is make sure when Tom Jones shows up being really cool, yeah.
Okay. Sorry, Mr. Wilkinson. Can you repeat the page, please?
71,
Okay.
Unit
Unit 8,
eight.
you said?
8, removal of the trustee. Paragraph
Okay.
3.
I'm there. Would you like me to read it?
Well, Siobhan is reading at the moment, but I have reading for you in a little while, so hang in there.
Okay, no problem.
Okay. All right, keep going, Siobhan.
In the case of Vizzo versus Chase Manhattan Corporation Limited, Supreme Court of the Bahamas, number 1261 of 1992, unreported. The court suggested that to remove a trustee, there should be proof shown of some misconduct or mismanagement of the trust assets, and not merely that the beneficiaries are unhappy. In this case, 4 of the beneficiaries sought the removal of the corporate trustee as the company did not sell the 49% interest in the partnership as directed by the settler, who was given power so to direct in the trust instrument. The discussion centered on the trustee's standard of care, Spade versus Gone, in which the judge stated that it is not indeed every mistake or neglect of duty or inaccuracy of conduct of trustees which will induce the courts of equity to adopt such a curse. The acts or omissions must be such as to endanger the trust property or to show a want of honesty or want of proper capacity to execute the duties or want of reasonable fidelity.
Okay, now stick a pin. A lot of stuff she said in there. Okay? Interestingly enough, this is a case involving a trustee in the Bahamas. How about that? The hell we got in it? Okay? And essentially, what is the case saying?
If they didn't, do the settlement on it.
Yeah, the beneficiaries were pissed
Beneficiary,
and they wanted to get rid of, see, that's the friction we're talking about here. Under retirement, but it also occurs under removal. Okay? The beneficiaries wanted to get rid of the corporate trustee. Why do you think we specified corporate? Is there another kind of trustee? Individual trustees, of course, let's not forget them. In this case, it's a corporate trustee they wanted to get rid of, like Scotiabank Wealth Management, Associate Trust Company, or whatever, Royal Trust, CIBC Trust, whatever it is, that's a corporate trustee. They wanted to get rid of their corporate trustee because the corporate trustee did not follow an instruction they gave,
the settler did.
the settler gave. Well, beneficial, yeah. And they give the settler the power to give that instruction. That's the problem, and the settler's in it. See my point? So remember, trust in the Bahamas are what we refer to as modern trusts. So in a modern trust, settlers are allowed to be involved in the process, including the investment process. Some of them even have the power to give instructions to invest. Who the hell does that? But in a modern trust, we can do that. And since the trustee fees are so great, a lot of trust companies in modern trusts in the Caribbean and around the world, certain jurisdictions where they allow this, they allow the settler to be integrally involved in the process. When in the old conservative trusts, settlers were not involved. Once you turn into the assets, dead or alive, you shut up and let the trustee be a trustee. So the settler is giving an investment instruction to sell 49%. The trustee, perhaps in the trustee's what? Judgment,
Mhm.
or even in the trustee's what? Discretion. Remember that?
Mhm.
Let's not forget the discretionary trust. We don't know what the details are in this case. If it is a discretionary trust, the settler gives an instruction, the trustee has the right to what? Refuse.
You're right, because it's only a power. They only have.
Of course. And so the beneficiaries can get upset, which they did. The settler probably got upset and all that. And so they wanted to get rid of the trustee so they could find the trustee will what? Do what they want. How's that? Just like money laundering. Find a jurisdiction that will take money, back dirty money. Same principle.
But what happens in that case is they said, like, if you get fired from being a trustee, you can't work under a trust organization, right? So if you remove by the court as a trustee, it's the same thing, you can't work.
It depends on the reason why you remove.
Okay.
If you're removed because you've been convicted of some criminal activity, then the courts may make it difficult. See, again, it gets very tricky because if you are a corporate trustee and you are removed as a corporate trustee because you were convicted of some wrongdoing, then the question is, does the court have the power to cause a corporate trustee to not be able to take on any new business? Probably not. See, because remember, a corporate trustee is normally made up of shareholders. So you might get rid of the trust administrator if the trustees found to have wrongdoing, or whoever else is involved within the firm. But the firm itself will continue to do business. Now, if you're an individual trustee and you've been convicted or found to be doing wrong, then the courts might say you can no longer act as trustee forever or for X number of years. Yeah, here or anywhere else, then, yeah, go somewhere else, see if they'll do it. If they call us, we're gonna tell them you suck and you can't do anything here, like directors of companies who've been accused of wrongdoing. So yeah, it's all relative to the situation, by all means. So here, they wanted to get rid of this guy, the corporate trustee. But by the time, and the corporate trustee did what? Took it to court, right? Because so, and then the judge kind of in his statement appears as if he agrees with the corporate trustee. And so you can't just get rid of a trustee just because you have a gripe.
Right.
You need to be able to prove that the trustee's done something substantially wrong or evil, not that they just didn't take your instruction, Mr. Settler, who shouldn't be in it in the first place, so to speak. And beneficiaries, just because selling the property may have meant that you would have gotten some extra money. You never know, see? Why is it the settler wanted him to sell 49%? Why is it that the beneficiary were upset? We don't know those details. Clearly, the court got those details and still ruled, hey, we get it, but come up with a good reason, not just any reason, or just some financial reason, or just some reason you decide as a group. Okay, we don't just get rid of trustees for just that reason, especially corporate trustees. Okay, all right, keep going.
It says the court held that it was in the best interest of the court to remove the trustee as the trust had 6 years before it came to an end, that the asset had been liquidated and dispersed to the beneficiaries.
So now, even though the court said, hey, we can't remove trustees for any this and that, they still ruled to do what? Get rid of the trustee on condition. What is the condition? That the trust was about to what? Expire. There were no longer any assets in the trust. If this trust was not about to expire and there were more assets in the trust, more than likely the court would not have ruled for the removal. Okay, so get absolutely, or get a new trustee. Okay, so again, the courts are then responsible once it gets there to look at all the overriding conditions. And that's why it's so important that persons who sit on the bench are independent, that they don't take bribes, that they don't have too many buddies anywhere, that they don't go too many places with chicks in bikinis or whatever to get them to change their mind, or dudes in swimsuits or whatever it is that swing people. Okay, because once a case gets to them, they have to be independent if they're going to give the best position. And if you take money or take bribes or get caught up in some stuff, then it's hard to do that. Sometimes impossible to do it. Oftentimes, unfortunately, even in the high courts, there are corrupt judges, by the way, around the world. Just as there are corrupt cardinals and priests. How the hell a priest could molest a little boy? Big time. And they're not even interested in molesting little girls, which is sick. Well, I don't see, that's a good point. Which one is worse? All two. But when you take the worst from the wussest, which one is the wussest? See, the old people talk. See, it's crazy. When you molest a little girl, that's crazy, eggs, ridiculous. But in the worst case, some stupid reason you try to give, it's a girl. Now, when you are a priest and you decide to molest a little boy, you don't even have the excuse it's a girl. Which is no excuse either. See my point? Yeah. Guys are snuggling in church, but they're getting married and going home to go on a honeymoon, 2 dudes. Imagine that. I haven't wrapped my head around it, never will. Don't have any intentions, it's absurd. Even as a person who believes, even if I didn't believe in the Bible and the word, it still makes no sense. It makes no sense even from common sense. So I keep trying to tell, oh, you hate people? No. You like homosexual and lesbians? No, it's not that. I have some friends who grew up who are now. And yes. Does that mean they come and say, hey, Sam out?
No, they're your friends.
Well, I don't hang with them.
Oh, you
But
see.
I grew up with them, I know them. If they say hi, I'll say hi, they want a conversation, I'll talk. Nothing personal, but just don't invite me to any of your, no. Or nothing like that. Next thing you know, one of my students, one of you guys, see me coming out somewhere. That time I just went to visit a friend. Who the hell's gonna believe that?
They said birds of a feather.
Yes. And I'll never forget what my grandma used to tell me when I was a little boy. If you're not there, nobody could call you. No. Hell no. It's the same principle. I try to tell my kids that. I'm like, but so Dad, that means you did everything right? I said, how the hell I can do everything right? Nobody does everything right. But that has nothing to do with trying to do as much as you can. That is right. See? That's what it is. Oh, there's children always watching. Siobhan, checking you out. You have a daughter, yeah? So, worse.
Worse,
Every move you make,
worse.
he's checking you out. How old is he?
5.
Another 6. So yeah, everything you do. Don't mind him rolling over on the floor, playing with his toy. He's watching you, listening to everything you say. And one day, if you're making the wrong moves and saying the wrong stuff, he's gonna get a little older and rise up. So, like all of a sudden you have this guy there. Mommy, how could you tell me not to lie? And I hear you lie all feel like that. Already now. So imagine when he's grown up like 12,
Oh.
15. That's how
Yeah,
deep it
they
is.
have no more.
Man, children, I told you my kids are watching me now, and they are men. The hell somewhere in the world, and they're still like checking me like Dad, so because they want to see like what mistake I'm gonna make. Not that it's not gonna be a problem, but that's just how children are. People are that way. Children are the same. Okay, beneficiaries, see, are that way.
Like children.
Yes, they're watching to see, yeah, all the time. Watching trustees, watching the trust administrator, see what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, with their stuff. See who else they could sue. All right, so in this case, the court says, fine, we'll go with it only because. If those conditions didn't exist, I'm sure the courts would not have just gone with it because they had a gripe. So the gripe has to be substantial. Not just, I don't like that person. They didn't agree with what I told them to do, so I'm mad. We just agreed because we agreed. Things like that will not be sufficient. Okay, keep going.
Additionally, the decision in Matthew versus Dalton reiterated the principle that if trustees are unable to administer a discretionary trust, the court can appoint new trustees to do so.
Okay, pretty straightforward. If the trustee is not prepared to do administer, then the courts can do so. The courts is always the ultimate course of action. If you're a trustee and you have any doubt about what to do, take it to court if necessary. If you are a beneficiary and you have any doubt as to what's going on, you can take that to court too. So the lawyers, trust lawyers are always making a bunch of money somewhere. Probably enough
Trust in
time I
the
may have been a
state.
trust lawyer even. Sorry?
Trust in the state.
Of course. Trust in the state lawyers. Okay, and then finally,
A trustee may also be removed under a power within the trust instrument or by statute. The circumstances surrounding the removal of a trustee under a power within the trust instrument must be clearly related to the power of removal, since the power will often be strictly construed. Removal of a trustee may impact negatively on the trustee from a moral standpoint.
interesting. So now we get that last thing, the moral side of it. So a trustee may not just want to be removed just because of the money, but it may be a moral perspective, which leads to what? Reputational damage. See? Remember that word? Reputational damage. And if you don't believe it, do something that will smear your the way people perceive you morally. That will create major reputational damage for you. Okay. By all means. And so the trustee has the same thing going. A lot of trustees, the primary driver is money, of course. But that's not the only issue for some trustees, because reputational damage means some of you may lose some more what? Clients might leave when they hear about this case. And those potential clients who would have come to you might not come. Okay, therein lies the problem.
Is that why, well, trust companies closing down?
That could be one reason, yes. By all means. When you see a trust company closing down, that could be any one of a number of reasons. Because typically, trust companies don't just close down. And trust companies tend to have legacy trusts that go on and on and on and keep adding trusts as they go. So if there's a case where a company is actually closing down, some very unique things are probably going on in that particular
They can
trust
resolve
company.
it. They can resolve it.
But-
That's why I always wonder, because then you see things, just getting transferred, this one.
Oh, yeah, obviously an unresolved issues.
They close down.
Absolutely. We don't see that too often in a trust company, but from time to time, it does happen. And part of it is because of disputes or reputational damage, by all means,
Or bad match.
which of course, yes, is a trustee who was not conducting the trust affairs as they should. Remember, trustees have often been accused of overcharging. Piss people off, they leave. When people being whom? Beneficiaries. Okay, trustees are often charged with misconduct because many of them are using their position as trustees or trust administrators to enrich themselves. Remember that one? Profit? Well, some people get the profit before they shut down. So even though they may be sad they shut down, they can't get any more, they're happy because their pocket's already full. How about that? Just like Sam, his pockets might already be full.
Very writing the stresses.
The guy from FTX, the only person who might have money now may be him
He's a billionaire, and you never know what he put his money in.
or anyone else.
Like that.
Like, that's what they're saying. US.
Look, This is nothing new. Let's not act as if crypto have made people different. He's a youngster, man. Doesn't matter. The first thing they need to do is investigate him. Freeze his account personally. We don't, but we freeze the company accounts. That's fine.
But all their accounts there, right?
We don't know. See? Who the hell knows?
Would they allow him to be here?
Well, that's okay. He was here under license, under regulation. The point is,
Donating the charities.
But they say he donated. I don't know if they was talking about the local government, but I know he donated in the US, like over $200 million.
So remember, he gives them the large role and transfer him.
here, and then they bought a bunch of real estate here, and so those real estate companies bought bank accounts are full, and so everybody got a cup their share of the money.
Right, now you wonder now what happens with that.
Well, if those sales are legitimate sales, then nothing. But if those sales can be connected to illegitimacy, then those persons who receive money would come into question.
But is this really like, is this what's going on really illegitimate? It's just that he made a bad investment choice.
We don't know if he did. See, let me tell you something. A lot of illegal activity is hidden behind bad investment decisions. They're not all bad investment decisions. We don't really know what happened. All we know is he collected a whole bunch of money from people. People started to make withdrawal demands on the money that they put into it. The company didn't have the money to pay them. That's what we do know. Hence, it's the reason for the liquidation. Because the demand for withdrawals were greater than the money they had available. The question is, why didn't they have the money available? Where did it go? And for what? gonna be a long story. All right,
Equity bank, they froze everything, people with assets, and then they froze all that funds.
at equity,
Mhm.
yes, or
It's
any other
like
bank that
that.
have assets with FTX,
Yeah.
okay, as a start. It's gonna be a long, drawn out, stinky process.
I mean, majority of our local banks wasn't allowing. Right, it wasn't
But don't
allowing.
forget, we have digital currency now too, and then we have a few.
Now, folks, don't mix up crypto activities with custody.
mm,
You could hold crypto funds in custody without being involved with crypto.
Mm,
So in other words, money generated from crypto activity, you can open bank accounts and put it in there. Potentially.
but I know for sure, Scotiabank, you couldn't. buy crypto.
No, most retail banks are not involved in crypto, especially Scotia.
can't regulate it.
Okay, most retail banks in the Bahamas and even around the world are not involved in
Yeah.
crypto yet. Crypto operate on crypto exchanges and they operate everything on some doggone electronic system. Talking nonsense. So real money go in and then after that, you're not really sure what the hell's going on. Not really. Not really. See my point? I don't care how sophisticated the language sounds. It's a brand new world. The world of getting things done quickly without intermediaries, without central bank involved in slowing down the process, without retail banks like Scotiabank, Royal Bank, and Commonwealth Bank slowing down your lives. You can process your financial affairs at night in your pajamas. Don't mind all that stupid talk.
As you and Nathaniel last week with the AI for the
Yeah.
card.
Yeah, Natalia's probably trying to figure out something AI, I him up already. Okay, so be careful. And young people are especially susceptible, and rich people, young, rich, and old people, see? Because young people are impressionable, rich people think they can do anything they feel with, and old people are gullible. How about that? Yeah,
What about everybody else?
we like, hell no.
The in between.
Yeah, like me, I don't care if I have 5,000 to waste, I will not waste it there. I'm going to a local credit union and put it there for get my 4% interest.
All right.
Yeah, Royal Fidelity, yes. Okay, mess around that not. Now millions and billions are floating around somewhere in some electronic wallet. Whose wallet? I know what's in my wallet. But these wallets that are floating around, that's a long fucking story.
And it's so crazy to me, that baffles me, to think that you know people there millions of dollars, and then you also someone sitting right on the side, you know, $0, like.
Well, that's an old story before crypto. That story's been around before Christ.
You ever read The Richest Man in Babylon?
Yes, same old story.
Yeah.
We have rich men in Babylons now, all over the world. Rich Chinese, rich rich Americans, rich Canadians. They all over the place, all kind of Babylonian riches floating around. It's the same thing. There's nothing new under the sun.
And that go back to.
Beginning of
years,
time.
Yeah.
The beginning.
Cause he wanted, he just like, well, why did he get up with the king now? Not to say he's Lutherans and that's it.
Yeah, but he was an exception.
Yeah.
The rule still remains. You have the rich,
And you have to post-
the filthy rich, the filthy poor, and the rest of us in between hanging in there. And that has always been the case. And depending on which country you're born in, dog eat your lunch if you're born on the wrong side of the fence. Luckily in Nassau, even our most poor people still
Better
comfortable.
than average.
Yeah, average person in the world. Isn't that amazing? The poorest Bohemians gambling. Poor Bohemians can still gamble. How the hell can you imagine that? Because there are people in the world who don't earn 10% of what poor Bohemians earn. If you pay somebody $260 a week in China, Africa, India, and certain other countries, man, they'll be living like kings
Yeah.
on
That's
our
why-
minimum
that's
wage.
why they help. That's why they help.
We all know that.
They know how to-
But then we have to be careful.
Yeah.
Because remember, it's not all about money, see? Money might drive some people here. Then you can have a lot of what? Cultural exchanges. Then cultures are gonna get mixed up. And then mixed up is gonna create discontent. And then discontent is gonna create classes of people. Like, over there, you still black. I'm gonna go over here, where I'm lighter. Or some, see, it ain't only about the job. Huh?
The color ain't gonna change.
Yeah.
That
The
color thing,
class.
that ain't gonna change.
But-
But you don't think that's what, the guy moved from Cuba?
Cuba,
What he tried to, yeah, Castro,
what are you trying to do?
where he tried to put everybody on the same level.
That's communism. That never works, no matter what color you are.
It's so sad.
If everybody's white, communism doesn't work. If everybody's pink, it doesn't work. That conversation is just to get it going, so that he and his gang could be rich and the rest could
Everybody
eat
fall
dirt,
off,
no matter what color you are. Read it up. Communism never works.
That's so sad.
It only sounds good in theory that we all is one. See, we all is one. In practice, man cannot make it happen. North Korea is communist. Did you know that?
Yeah.
And Spotty and his group live high on the hog with gazillions of dollars, and the rest of North Koreans eat dirt and live in fear.
It's still moving.
Well, they don't dare, they'll disappear.
Yep.
All right, okay. So these, God we trust. Do any of these things relate to trusts? They do, everything relates to trusts in one form or another. We're just isolating this particular topic for discussion, but all these things are interrelated. Because persons who are beneficiaries and settlers and trustees are also impacted by these other issues that we're talking about, including crypto. True or false? But soon crypto is going to creep into trust. And all of a sudden-
Yes.
I know,
Yep, so-
I know, I'm just saying,
And that's scary too, because you could call.
anything in crypto is scary,
Of a trust company.
okay? A lot of money is gonna disappear through crypto already and going in the future. Until we get it, quote unquote, better regulated, whatever the hell that means. Getting it better regulated is a whole different ball game. In the meantime, a bunch of people are gonna get richer and a bunch of people are going to be losers. My. All right, Unit 8, self-assessment. A trust instrument may contain a what?
Express clause.
Express clause, which allows the trustee to retire. What are two other ways in which a trustee may retire? Yeah, yeah, those are two minor ways. What are two major ways? Yeah, that's another minor one, not minor meaning unimportant, just minor compared to these two. We said it as we came to the end of the removal issue. What are two other ways other than the normal stuff in which a trustee may retire? Well, that's one of the normal ways.
That's
In
a
the trust,
statute.
I mean, in the
Yeah,
trust
the
instrument.
The trust instrument. We talked about that initially. That's true too, but that's not the two we're looking for. Because we already said that's the drive of everything. The other two that we're looking for happens to be the Trustee Act, remember?
Yeah.
And finally, not the statute. The Trustee Act is statute. Okay, anytime you hear the act of any kind or statute of any kind, they're interrelated, meaning the legislation. Okay. Statutory usually means by law. So if anything has been enacted, it's enacted through law. Yeah, and the courts. Okay, the two others are the Trustee Act and the courts. Okay, all the others are, yes, they are the normal players. But the two that come down the line, when all else fail, we go to the law and then finally the courts. A court will discharge a trustee blank or a new trustee.
Provided that there is at least one other.
trustee to continue, yes. There must be one other trustee to continue when a trustee is being removed. Could be more, but there must be at least one. In other words, the duty of the court is found to be, they don't want to leave any beneficiaries uncovered. Follow? Not even for a minute. Sure. All right. A retiring trustee of a trust normally requests a release from liability. Why would they do that? If you're retiring, requesting a release, why? After they're gone, they don't want anybody to come back and say they owe anything. Okay, so they try to get a formal release, a document. Say I'm released from all liability. Sorry? Yeah, well, who has the legal interest in the trustee? Who has equitable interest? The settler has what? Nothing after it's,
Unless.
yeah, unless, we know, unless he's a beneficiary. Because in modern trust law, the settler can be a trustee, beneficiary, protector.
That's crazy.
That's absurd,
That's done.
okay? To me, in my limited experience, or maybe not so limited, those are grounds for sham trust. It may not be, but they are certainly grounds for it. Why the hell would you want a settler to be one or all of those things? Typically, the only thing the settler should do is settle the trust and then, yeah. That's it. But when the settler can be all those other things, it creates all kinds of strange situations. So the retiring trustee wants a release from liability. They want it in writing if possible from the beneficiaries or even the courts. And sometimes they can get it. And the release will hold up unless the retired trustee is found to have been involved in something what? Illegal. If you do something illegally, then they will not recognize that release from liability. They will come back and sue your pants off. Now you're released from all normal liability, but not illegal activity, fraud and criminal behavior. Some indemnities don't even cover that nonsense. Indemnities cover what? Legitimate failures, not criminal behavior. All right, with regards to the removal of a trustee, the court has blank. Sorry, say it again. Yeah, interest power. There's another word for interest that we use. We use interest power, interest jurisdiction, but there's another word that we use, starts with S. Sole jurisdiction.
So.
SOLE. Like sole proprietor. Who's a sole proprietor anyway? Anybody know? Person who? Okay, yeah, that's one. Yes, usually when we use the word sole proprietor, that's a business that has one owner. Okay, typically. All right. The removal of a trustee by a court is primarily based upon the actions of the trustee, which may be due to some or some due to some
Dishonesty,
or some. That's me.
financial irresponsibility,
That's you. Or by him becoming a bankrupt. Or by him becoming a bankrupt.
bankrupt,
Shay, your mic is open, huh? Shay, your mic is open, huh?
yeah. I was
Okay.
answering the question.
Oh, you're answering the question. Okay, great. Because I heard myself talking to me. I'm like, man, how interesting is that? Okay, way to go, Shay. All right, number 7. what are the two other ways again in which a trustee may be removed from a trust? Not in this case, but yeah,
Under power,
yeah, but not,
not
those,
in this case.
not in this
It's
case.
not.
You said it earlier,
What, friction?
not friction. Again, by statute and by the trust
Same answer.
instrument, yes. In this case, by statute and by the trust instrument. A court may also remove a trustee from a trust where there is found to be, yes, conflict between the trustees and the beneficiaries. If trustees are blank,
And then who can this,
yes, a discretionary trust, the court could appoint new trustees to do so. Always, remember, we have to keep the beneficiaries covered. It's great being a beneficiary, isn't it, of anything? The circumstances surrounding the removal of a trustee under a power within the trust instrument must be to, that's true so far, clearly related to a power. In other words, there must be a power, the power of removal in order for it to happen. Since the power will often be what? Strictly construed by whom? The courts. And the removal of a trustee may impact negatively on the trustee from a moral perspective. All right. Then, being a trustee is no child's play. And it shouldn't be, because especially if you're a corporate trustee, you make a lot of money. You're not expected to be playing around. Okay? It's not a game. You're talking billions, millions and billions of dollars sometimes in legacy. All right, Ashay, are you ready? I was ready earlier.
Yes, sir.
There you are. So now we're into unit number 9.
Can you hear me?
I can.
There you are.
You can.
So now we're into unit number 9. I can.
And so we're going to be talking about the role and responsibilities of whom?
And so we're going
Trust
to be talking
administrator.
about the role of trust.
Who is the trust administrator again? Anybody? Yeah, that person is hired by the professional trustee who administer the trusts.
Yeah, that person is hired.
Yes, huge, because they're like the CEO of a company.
It's my title, I'm junior.
Yeah, you're the trust administrator.
So when I was reading this, I was like, okay, yeah, I need to do this better. Okay.
Yeah,
I was reading it and I was like, geez,
Yeah, I didn't know.
everything.
they do. Now, they don't do everything physically,
Right,
but they have to make sure that everything is done.
Uh-huh.
And that's why they hire juniors and lawyers and accountants and all these other people to get the job, to help them get the job done. But just supervising this whole process is a nightmare. Okay? And so the person on the top of the heap, they're paid big bucks to give them great benefits, but the responsibility is also a huge one. Is the best person always at the top of trust administration for the administrator for the job? No. Oftentimes, the best person is not at the top of anything. But that's just the way it is. You don't have to be the best to get to the top. You just have to do whatever egg it is.
not as much as possible.
Even that doesn't get you to the top necessarily.
Right.
There are a lot of things involved other than just your ability and your competence. You'd think that that should not be so, but it is. Okay. You need certain social skills. You need to know certain people. You need to be hanging out certain places. All kinds of different things you need to acquire, and then hope that at the end of the day, they'll consider you over the other person. And that is certainly no guarantee. Okay, for sure. All right. So in this particular unit, then we're going to look at the role of the trust administrator the duties of the trust administrator and the law that governs the trust administration process. Okay, so Shay, let's get cracking. The trust administrator.
The trust administrator has the overall responsibility to carry out the administration of the trust under the direction and the oversight of the trustee. Whilst the discretionary powers of the trustee may not be delegated, the trustee may delegate certain specific tasks to administrators and other agents. In relation to the discretion to be made, subject to the terms of the trust instrument. The exercise of discretion by the trustees is normally shared by members of a trust committee for professional trustees whose deliberations are often documented in trustee minutes, which do not become trust property and are not required to be disclosed to the beneficiaries or a court of competent jurisdiction.
Now let's stick a pin for 1 minute. This is very important. Typically, decisions at the professional trustee level, which is the corporate trustee, are made via committee. The committee is typically headed by the trust administrator. They meet from time to time, weekly, monthly, quarterly, whatever it is, to make decisions about what to do with the administration of the trusts that are in their care, all of them. Okay? Because remember, they could have hundreds, thousands of trusts within one particular corporate trustee environment, right? And so these decisions that are taken at these committee meetings are minuted, and they are for the sole use of the trust administrator and the committee members. These minutes are not disclosed to the beneficiaries or anybody else for that matter. And the courts will protect that particular right unless the beneficiaries can prove that there's a reason why they should see a particular set of minutes.
They can do that, like.
They could present it to court. You can present anything to court and see if you can convince the court to cause you to see it. The court will then decide.
But I mean, like, why would that even come up to court if that's like, right, and.
Oh, really? Here's why it comes up. If I try to touch that, move your phone and try to get it. Just move it. Okay, put it there. And I try and move it again. So now I'm gonna be curious as to why you keep what? Or you don't want me to see your phone.
But I mean, I get that, but what we've been learning in class so far is that the minutes should never be seen by the
Yeah, like it's
beneficiary.
And so what's the point of making? Because that is a fact still. But the question was, why would they make a court issue of it? Because yeah, because people always want to see what they can't see. The more you didn't,
Hi.
you don't believe it? Oh, are
I
you
mean,
mad?
I get that, but what I'm saying is, if you feel that your trustees are doing what's important for you as the beneficiary,
They still
or
know what
even,
y'all
even
discussing.
if you feel that they're not doing what they're supposed to do, like I could see you carrying them to court for other things, but to see the minutes, something that.
Yes.
been
Here's
restricted?
what happened. After all these decades of being married, my wife still says, what are you thinking? See, why would she ask you what I'm thinking? She wants to know what I'm thinking.
Right.
See, what do you say when you
She'll
get
know
married
that.
and you have a husband, you ask him? Cause guys tend to be like, not the.
Quiet.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so you wanna know, what are you thinking, John? And he says, nothing. She said, what do you mean, nothing? Cause we want, our wives want us to talk.
So, yeah.
Yeah, because the more we talk, the more information they have to work with, for better or for worse. And beneficiaries are like that, because they can't access the minutes. They know that in the minutes are the important thoughts and decisions about what's happening with the trust and them. And so they want to know what's in there, so they can see how to egg and who to egg.
Like,
That's why they
figure
might
out-
want to know. And that's one of the reasons why the courts even have ruled over and above and many times that beneficiaries are not entitled to see trustee minutes. Because once they start getting into the thoughts of what's the trustee's decision-making process, then you're gonna
They know
have
what
people
to
getting a little
expect.
crazy. Lawsuits and all kind of arguments and friction.
Mhm.
Yeah. So for example, if I'm thinking like this, I still hate my in-laws. I have to keep that to myself
Oh, boy.
because they biggity. They like walking in your house, open your fridge, act like they own, shit like that. But you have to keep it to yourself. Now, my wife says, what are you thinking? I say this, then she'll be upset with me.
Ah,
See my point?
Right.
Even though I tell her the reasons.
Mhm.
Because people, depending on who people are, they, even if you give them a good reason, they still upset because they want you to allow their people to do whatever they, oh yeah, whatever they want. And you're supposed to shut up, Siobhan, you'll see one day. Okay, and you don't like my family? And you said, and you already told your wife 10 years later, it's not that I don't like your family. I don't like what they do when they come in our house. So I have nothing personal against them. But people tend to do that so they could get their way. See, same thing, beneficiaries are like that. So the less beneficiaries know about how trustees are thinking, the better for everyone. See my point? Beneficiaries don't feel that way. But trust me, that's why the courts uphold it whenever possible.
That's like, I didn't know they could go through, let's say you have a trust and then, and you have, you invested in the money in the different markets, so they have a bigger return. I didn't know they could go into the drives at work and request the monthly statements, okay, with this particular company making this month or like.
You mean beneficiaries?
Yeah.
Beneficiaries are entitled to financial information pertaining to the trust.
Different, the financial statements is
Yeah.
just numbers.
Fin- But,
Not
but,
the financial statement, it's like the monthly investment.
yeah, investment returns is considered financial information, not just balance sheets and income statement. Any financial information pertaining to the trust, they are entitled to see. They're just not entitled to see trustee minutes. Okay? Certainly.
They could go in.
Yeah, but now, if the beneficiary wants to see financial information and the trustee refuses, they can take that to court and win. But they cannot take the issue of we need to see the minutes to court. Most of the times they will not be successful unless they could prove that in the minutes is something prejudicial or crucial towards their interests as beneficiaries. And that's not easy to prove. Okay, for sure. All right, Shay. Something happened.
I'm here.
Oh, there you are. Okay.
The trust administrator is required to be highly trained and skilled in performing the administrative tasks of the trust. The trust administrator must also be knowledgeable of the terms and parties to the trust. Significant reliance is placed on the trust administrator to provide the trust committee with the information needed to deliberate and decide on how, when, and to whom it will exercise its discretion, particularly in relation to any distributions to the beneficiaries of the trust. Additionally, trust administrators should understand and be knowledgeable of the trust laws governing the duties of trustees and the administration of the trust. Generally, the standard of duty and care expected of trust administrators is a relatively high one, given their level of expertise and experience, and considering their responsibilities in relation to assisting in the discharge of the trustee's duties.
Yeah, if you're a professional trustee, nobody wants to hear any horse dead and cow fat. Those millions of dollars you get in fees every year, just do it and do it right, basically. All right. Now, if you're an individual trustee and you make some mistakes here and there, you're not a professional, you don't know everything about how trust should work, et cetera. You're just doing things in good faith, hopefully. And even individual trustees who don't know everything about trust, they still try and find ways. Let me see if I can siphon off some money and put it in my own account, even though they're not allowed to do it. Because that's just the nature of people. Not all people, some people. As it is with some professional trustees. Some of them run their own program to see if they can profit, remember? And one of the rules is the trustee should not profit from being a trustee. At least not from the trust. That's a no-no. Unless you get the approval of beneficiaries. Alright. Okay, keep going and say,
The trust administrator is encouraged to review the trust instrument and documents to familiarize him on the beneficiaries, their entitlements, the trustees' duties and powers generally, the appointment of agents, trustee investments, and the overall terms governing the trust. So the settler's letter of wishes is also important in this review, as it provides practical guidance for the administration of the trust, although not legally binding.
now let me just say something about the letter of wishes again, because sometimes even professional trustees get lost in translation. They act like there's no letter of wishes. Eventually, it gets lost in the file somewhat, okay? But did you guys have this discussion before my session? No,
Is this what establishes the trust
not necessarily, but indirectly.
before the deed?
Yeah, I don't know what prompted me to stop a letter of wishes, because yeah, sometimes that passes even over a lecture for some reason. But here's what happens. Usually when a settlor is settling a trust, okay? They would say to the trustee, this is my letter of wishes, and they would outline how they would like to see the trust administered. So the letter of wishes is a non-legal document prepared by the settlor to give the trustee some indication of how they'd like for the trust to be administered. Whether the trustee will follow those wishes or not depends on the trustee and the circumstances, but at least it's designed to give an indication. It's like if you write a will. In that will, you might have a letter of wishes as well, which says to your executor, I would like for you to make sure that my children are the beneficiaries of this will. Even though we know that those things are outlined, I would like for you to make sure that my child, my last child who has a handicap is properly provided for, more so than those who don't have handicaps. You see my point? I would like for you to make sure that my assets are not distributed to your family members and stepchildren, or whatever the case might be. Let their own people make provisions for them, because they will not make provisions for my children. That's what a letter of wishes could be.
Or that Siobhan won't get what she's supposed to get until she's 30.
Yeah,
Is she like 10 now?
yeah, or even if she's 20, because she might run into something not at 20 and just, oh, let's get married, no.
But I was reading a case the other day where somebody had a letter of wishes and the son was of legal age. So he was able to get everything that they wanted his age to be 25 in order for him to get
But he was
his
25.
interest.
Was
He
he
wasn't
25?
25, but he was of legal age.
So they still gave him everything.
Right, the court still allowed him to get, I can't remember what the case is, because I didn't read.
Yeah, and the reason for that is even though the letter of wishes may have said 25, which is a more responsible age than 18, if the legal age is 18, the legal age will prevail.
Right.
That's why the court would rule in that fashion.
And he had his mental capacity. as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, of course. But the point is, the letter of wishes is just what you'd like to see happen. It's not a legal document, and it's not binding on the trustee decision-making process.
And beneficiaries can sue based upon that.
No. Okay? Just like you can leave a letter of wishes for your executor, but once you die, if your wife is the executor, she can say, man, piss on him, he's dead. I don't give a damn what his wishes are. I'm doing what I could do. I'll give it to, unless the will says strictly. That's why a will has to be very specific,
Just like the deed.
just like the trustee. Okay? Indeed. Never mind. All right, keep going. Let's see.
The trust administrator's organization skills are critical to the effective and efficient administration of the trust. The diarizing of recurring and important events, the preparation of trust files, and the use of a comprehensive database in relation to the trust are important organizing tools for the proper functioning of the trust.
In other words, filing and information systems are critical. Nobody appreciates filing until something goes wrong and stuff need to be found, yes. Then all of a sudden, the filing clerk becomes the superstar or the culprit.
Mhm.
or the victim, depending on what happens. Until then, the filing person is nothing. Shut up and whatever. Yeah. So this filing thing is critical. Everything you do is pertaining to your beneficiaries. You better have it documented somewhere and better be able to access it. Or else dog will eat your lunch. If the beneficiaries come at you and you cannot provide it or prove otherwise, depending on their claim. All right. My. What does diarizing mean?
It's just like what you did on a daily.
Yeah, what you did
basis.
and what you
Say
need to
I went
do.
Class, Mr. Wilkinson said this.
Indeed.
Siobhan said this.
Yeah.
Shay did that. And then when I left, I went and got gas.
Absolutely. So if you have to go back on that day at any time, so what you
Right
did on
now.
the, 12th of November, you just go to the 12th
Pull it up.
and say exactly what you did.
I guess it's a CYA too.
It is definitely a CYA. And anybody in their right mind should have CYA somewhere all the time, depending on what you do. Okay,
That's always a blanket.
always in just about anything important,
Mhm.
definitely. Because whenever something goes wrong, if you don't CYA, they will always be looking for a scapegoat who has no CYA.
Right.
When my son was a little boy, he found out that ass was in the Bible. Man, that's the worst thing that could ever happen. Daddy, did you know that ass is in the Bible? I'm like, of course I know, son. I said, do you know what it is? He said, yes, a donkey. I said, I think for now, just use donkey. Okay? And then when you grow up, you can pick which one you want to use. All right, keep on going and say.
Particular legal and tax opinions, changes in trust legislation, amendments to the trust, and changes to the beneficiary's circumstances must be duly noted and reviewed by the trust administrator in order to provide professional assistance and administrative support to the trustees. Equally important, the trust administrator must know and understand the investment objectives of the trust and the overall objectives of the trust. The trust administrator is instrumental in ensuring the trustees follow these investment objectives and obtain the relevant consents and approvals from any person duly appointed in the trust instrument in order to execute the investment strategy of the trust. The trust administrator is always required to discharge his administrative tasks and responsibilities within the context of the powers granted to the trustees within the trust instrument and terms of the trust generally. Another administrative task of the trust administrator is to obtain and carefully review and analyze the bank and investment statements in relation to trust assets. The trust administrator may also be required to make inquiries of bankers and investment advisors and investment managers in relation the asset holdings of the trust, and in some instances, inspect trust property to ensure that it is protected and preserved in accordance with the terms of the trust and generally.
Thank you very much, Ashay, for all that stuff. Oh, my God, I said a mouthful already in terms of what the trust administrator has to do. I think so far, and we're not done, that we can see straight away that this thing about being a trust administrator is a huge responsibility, and why they need so many players beneath them. Notice one of the key functions of the administrator is to keep their fingers and tabs on the finances of the trust. Where are the bank accounts? How much is in them? Where are the investments? Are they being successfully run or not? Where's the trust fund winning or losing money, and why? Where are the trust properties in the world? What do they comprise of? All of these things must be sitting somewhere and kept current and checked by the trust administrator at all times. Sometimes we all get busy and lose track of some of these things. Yeah, unless there's a dispute. Yes, okay? So while folks are getting the job done, while investment managers are doing their job and the accountants are doing their job, and the lawyers are doing their job, and the insurance company is doing their job, and whatever the case might be, the trust administrator must be checking all these things. They cannot just rely on the word of these people. Are the financials done? Yes, sir, ma'am. That's fine.
You have to see that.
Yes, you have to see it. Send it. You don't have to, you don't have to read everything. You don't have to be with every detail. That's not practical. But you certainly need to have proof that they exist and they are happening. Because ultimately, while the trust administrator may delegate the activity, they cannot delegate the. It starts with R. You can delegate activity, but not responsibility. That's the word. So the investment manager, it messes something up. The trustee cannot say, don't blame me as the trustee or trust administrator, blame the investment manager. You are to blame. Now, once they egg you up, Mr. Trust Administrator, then you can go and egg up the investment manager. So if you are sued as a trustee or trust administrator and you have to pay out some money, how do you recover? You have to go to the investment manager and sue them. That's how it works. You could blame them, but nobody's listening to you if you're a trust administrator trustee. You are liable. My.
I tell you, let them point out all these things. I say, Monday morning, me and Mel.
Yeah. See, it does certainly, especially if you're in the environment, you may not necessarily be responsible for most of the responsibilities, but certainly being aware that they exist. And certainly when they come up in conversation, and certainly if something goes on now, you're much more enlightened today than you were a month ago. That's the point. Okay. And enlightenment is oftentimes the key to progress and to reducing your stress. Yes, enlightenment. All right. Thank you very much, Ashay. So that only leaves who on my hit list? Lovette. Okay, Lovette, you're up for the rest of it.
Okay. As the beneficiaries of a trust are required to be properly informed in accordance to the terms of the trust and or trust law, the trust administrator must keep the beneficiaries fully informed of the trust and any changes to the trust, inclusive of providing them with information regarding the trust accounts and the decisions of the trustees that may affect their entitlements or are in response to their request on a timely basis.
Now that word timely basis, you may think, well, why is that important? Isn't that normal?
No.
No. A lot of times trustees are late in getting information to beneficiaries. They are late in getting distributions paid out to beneficiaries. Yeah, they're late in responding to beneficiaries' inquiries, and beneficiaries hate all three of them, those things. Beneficiaries want to feel that you have their issues as your top priority. So they send you an email and you answer like a week later, they're like, what the kind of trustee is this?
You have to respond.
Oh yeah, you know about that already.
Yeah, my
Yeah.
boss, I literally the email pop. Literally, I just read it and he done send it
Oh,
back.
did you answer? Now that,
And he answered.
yeah, that's a little too quick,
I
but
didn't
the
say
point is
no,
made.
But he's quick.
I know. You missed it right
And they
away.
always say, thank you for your prompt response.
Yeah, oh yeah, they love prompt responses. In fact, most of us do.
Mhm.
It's just that we suffer in silence when they're not prompt. But not everybody suffers in silence. And beneficiaries happen to be. Some beneficiaries suffer in silence, but there are some who are whipper snappers. If you take more than 24 hours to answer, or even less, they're like calling someone next. What the hell? I sent you a text, I sent you an email, and I'm still waiting. That was 17 minutes ago. Absolutely. So timely basis, very important. Sometimes untimely responses to beneficiaries can cause the trustee a particular trust and a whole bunch of money in fees. As simple as that might seem. Okay, all right.
The timely exercise of a trustee's discretion in accordance with the terms of the trust instrument is another responsibility of the trust administrator. Any inaction or omission on the part of the trustee in exercising his discretion as mandated by the trust instrument may result in liability for breach of trust.
Isn't that crazy?
That is-
So taking your own sweet time is not just going to break into an argument sometimes, but also might result in a breach of trust, depending on what's written in that trust instrument. Because if that instrument says, for example, that you should respond to an inquiry within 14 days, 7 days, or whatever it is, and you don't do that, a beneficiary can actually take you to court and say you are in breach of trust. And you're like, why? Because you forgot that part or never knew. And I said, well, you're 1 day late. And then this is the trustee. So what is 1 day late? And then the judge will say 1 day late is 1 day late because the instrument says it's 1 day late. The same instrument that you are governed by. Now, that's an extreme. But the point is, they have a whole paragraph on timeliness, correct?
Yeah.
Which means that extreme though it may seem, it is a very important issue. As our other responses, it's just that we're so accustomed to answering stuff when we feel like it, aren't we? The whole world, whatever business you're in. Anybody ever try sending an email to a doctor?
You never get-
No, they don't like answer email, text, nothing.
Call.
No, the only people they answer to is when the hospital calls them. Like, doctor, you need to come in now, the person is dying.
Okay.
Or some nonsense, like, then they answer. But anything coming from other people, like a patient somewhere in the middle, man, they call the emergency room, go there, and they'll call us from there. Like, yeah, we know doctors are busy, but other people are busy too. And why can't we send you a text and say something? They didn't want to give you their phone number, true? Call the office or go to the hospital, they'll call me. Call the hospital and have them call me. If you die in the process, too bad. Or something. Why can't you send your send your doctor a text in the middle of the night? They're like, no, they don't want you to do that. Call the ambulance, drive to the hospital, walk there, drive there. They'll call us from there. Then we'll come. My point is, everybody wants to get a quick response wherever possible. Even people who have unimportant stuff. Okay, sometimes my wife might send me a text like, hi. Like if I don't answer like right away, she said,
An hour, 2 hours.
less than an hour. No, 15 minutes. Let me check now. Anyway, yeah, she'll send me a text like, you didn't get my text? And this me, yes. And she said, you didn't say anything that I was busy. She doesn't care. Okay, no. And she's like a little girl now that she's older. Like she isn't 30 or 40 something anymore. She's like a little girl again. So she is a female and a little girl at the same time now. So when she sent me, I have to send it right back. Say something quick. So she could be. So my point is, everybody wants a prompt response whenever possible. All right, the trustee is no different. Okay, keep going.
Okay. Trust administrator must ensure that any relevant consents or notices that are required to be obtained prior to the exercise of a trustee's discretion are obtained in advance of the exercise. This task is important to avoid any liability to the trustees for any losses to the trust which may have been experienced due to the improper or invalid exercise of the trustee's discretion.
So that's a very important thing for trustees, making sure they have the proper information before they make a decision. Because if they are sued by beneficiaries for a particular decision in their discretion, and it's not found that this decision was based on something substantial, then they can actually be found to be in breach of trust and be found liable as a result. Okay, big business. Again, some of these cases are not just a few $100,000. We're talking millions of dollars potentially, depending on the nature of the situation. Okay, by all means. All right, keep going.
Since trustees are required to account for trust property, they are mandated by law to keep financial records and accounts regarding trust property, which may be requested by the beneficiaries at any time.
And when? See?
Anytime.
So if a beneficiary says, I'd like to see the trust accounting details, and you say, well, as a trustee, I'm a trust administrator, all right, fine, I'll get it to you next week. No, this is like, next week, I need to see, yeah, why? And if you can't give them a reasonable answer, you might find yourself being sued. Okay, by all means. And you can't tell the trustee, well, we issue them once a year, check back then. You could tell them that, but this says what? Anytime. Which means that anytime they request it, you are mandated by law to provide it. You can reproduce our statements once a year. You better produce them always. Because they could call anytime. And even if they're not formal, even if they're informal information, if you don't have it, your formal statements up to date, like if you're balance sheeting or whatever it is, and they request it, you better put something together. Which means that you should always have what? Some record of trustee assets somewhere, even if they're not formalized yet. So if they request it, you can present them with some response.
That's the point of the diary.
Yes. And that's the point of having information.
Filed correctly too.
Of course, properly, yeah, the proper data in the proper places. So even if you only have a spreadsheet, like with the trustee assets, that would be a start if they want information.
You can send them that.
You could send them that. And they said, well, we want to see what income expenses were involved, then you can produce that and send that too. But the key is, when they request it, don't tell them stuff, we'll see you next year when we get them prepared. You could tell them, but that may not go down well, see, at any time. All right, keep going.
The trustee's duty to accounts is relatable to the beneficiary's general right to information regarding the state of the trust and trust property. However, trustees may prohibit the beneficiaries from having access to information, even information that they are allowed to obtain, if in their opinion, to grant such access or provide such information would be harmful or detrimental to the trust.
Now, how they're gonna prove that is another issue, but some trustees figure they have enough proof to say, hey, giving this information can cause a problem. Like, let's say a beneficiary, maybe a secret beneficiary says they want information, you give it, and all of a sudden that secret beneficiary is no longer secret, and then all hell breaks loose. So stuff like potentially detrimental, whatever that might be. Those are the grounds that the trustee can refuse, but the trustee better have a good case that it is detrimental or harmful. Otherwise, they have to disclose. Okay,
Since Section 83 of the Trustee Act 1998 allows beneficiaries to inspect trustees' accounts and other trust documents except trust minutes,
Hmm?
the trust administrator must ensure that such documents are properly presented when requested and are organized in the appropriate trust file.
See that? That's why you have a trust accounting department, because their job is to keep records of all trustee assets and to prepare the necessary reports, financial statements that are necessary to send to beneficiaries whenever they request them or at some specified period, usually annually. Okay. The point is, when they request it, it has to be there. That's the deal. Okay, so if the settler starts off a trust with 3 pieces of real estate and 2 bank accounts, that's the trust property for that moment. Then as stuff occur, investments occur, money come in, they have to be accounted for. The settler adds, maybe come back and add additional assets for some reason. Fine, though all of these things have to be accounted on an ongoing basis. So that when beneficiaries require information, or it's time to provide financial reports to them, the information can be complete and hopefully accurate. Yeah, okay. Keep going.
This action is also important in the event that the trustee is asked to give information on the administration of the trust, as may be required by the beneficiaries or the court.
See, you could argue the beneficiaries for a while, but when the courts requested, boy, you don't want to be messing around with Your Honor and company, because that's a whole other problem. Okay, all right.
The trust administrator must also take special care to ensure that amendments to the trust instrument are done in accordance with any express powers reserved within the trust instrument. To do so, or any other method prescribed.
In other words, don't just be amending for the hell of it because you feel like it. You need to go and find out if the instrument allows for amendments to begin with. And if it does, what kind of amendments you should consider doing to that trust. Okay, because sometimes amending a trust could change some of the important context of the original instrument. Very important exercise, which means that whenever an amendment is required, lawyers get excited as usual again, because they're the ones who are doing this. Even though the trust administrator is initiating and reviewing it and paying for it. Do you follow? Okay, keep going.
The amendment to the trust instrument must be clear and unequivocal.
Unequivocal, what does that mean? Anyone? I know it's a crazy word that means without any doubt. Okay, if you're unequivocal, you have no doubt about the information that's in it. Which means that equivocal means what? There is doubt. Okay. So if somebody comes to you on Monday and says, you know, I have some equivocations about this, don't panic. That just means they have some doubts about it. But if they are unequivocal, then you know now that they have no doubt.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is what the trust administrator better be as well in these matters. Okay.
Very interesting.
Mm,
And the trust administrator should ensure that all changes to be made in the administration of trusts, that is, changes in beneficial entitlements, consents, etc., due to the amendments made to the trust instrument are duly noted.
indeed, and these kinds of changes are critical. Beneficial entitlements, kiss my foot. You don't want to make any mistakes there. You better write that down, read it, reread it, double check it, have the junior administrator, senior, the lawyer, everybody check that. You don't want any mistaken entitlements and consents and all that. Those are critical amendments and changes. They're not just fly-by-night stuff. All right, keep going.
The trust administrator should not only protect and preserve trust property due to the proposed amendments, but also ensure that the legal protections are remuneration
Mhm.
of the trustee are not adversely affected. He must also take care that the proposed amendments are not contrary to existing law, create additional responsibilities, or increase the risk exposure of the trustees without adequate legal protection or increased remuneration.
In other words, when you're making amendments, make sure they're necessary, make sure that they don't harm the trust in any way. If it involves more work, then you have to build more remuneration in the trust agreement amendment so that the trustee doesn't take on more work in collecting the old pay. See? So a lot of things are involved when you're talking about making amendments to a trust instrument. And all of them have to be considered by the trust administrator at the time that the amendments are being considered and executed. Because once you put it in writing, stamp it, it's something you may need an amendment for that amendment if it's not done properly. Okay, and then finally,
Not only should the trust administrator ensure that the legal formalities to effectuate the amendment are recognized and executed, but he must also take action in carrying out any and all duties that may assist in the efficient functioning and effective administration of the trust subsequent to the amendment.
indeed. So you're responsible for making sure the amendment is done completely and correctly. And after it's completed, to make sure that the amendments are conducted according to the amendments. Wow. Does the amendment get rid of the original instrument? No, not unless it changes everything from the original instrument. Like this amendment replaces everything in the original instrument and it's now construed as the currency trust instrument, unless you have some language like that. You can make amendments to certain aspects of the old trust instrument and the old trust instrument will still be there with the added amendments to it. So it's like a what we call a codicil in a will. It's like an amendment to the will. You have the original will, but you're now saying, I have a child who just showed up and I want to make provisions for that child, and therefore all the other provisions are still holding, but I now add this to the original will. Okay. That Susan and John be entitled to. Because in the Bahamas, outside children are entitled to a return, even if it's not in the will. Even if you don't write them in, if they show up and they prove they're your children, then they're entitled to X, Y, and Z. Before the new will, Bahamas will, children born outside of wedlock were not entitled to anything, which is unfortunate, because it's not their fault, is it? No, it's not. No matter how we feel.
So many men, so many kids.
Yeah, indeed. And that's going to be a problem for a long time to come, because some children are going to show up every time somebody dies. Not every time, but from time to time. And it can be 1, 2, 5, 7, 10 or more. Yeah. So it's, yeah, on top of those who are born within wedlock, another 7. So depending on what those assets are, you can end up with whatever or nothing. Or very
Just
little.
so you know, just forget it.
Yeah, yeah. By the time you put all the assets together, so you know what, this is really not worth it. And the question is, who should get what? Yeah, I guess really that can go on and on and on. Okay, because some of the outside children might say, you know, the devil with it. I'm not going to pursue too much headache, and others will say, I don't care. I don't care if I'm getting $10.33. I want it. Principle. Bastard never saw him anyway, or whatever thing. Crazy as hell. All right. So those are the innumerable responsibilities of the trust administrator as directed by the trustee. Remember, the trustee is the trust company itself who hires the trust administrator, as we would hire a CEO for another type of firm. And that trust administrator is responsible then for making recommendations as to who they need to help them get the job done. And then they proceed to do all these crazy things. Remember, the trust administrator can delegate responsibility, but delegate activity, but not the responsibility. At the end of the day, if something goes wrong, the trust administrator is responsible, even if they didn't do it directly. That's how it is. Yes. So you get the big bucks and big benefits, but you take on the big responsibilities as well. All right, let's look at our self-assessment questions then. For Unit 9, who has overall responsibility for the administration of the trust under the guidance and oversight of the trustee? By all means. First and foremost. Number 2, the exercise of the discretion of the trustee is normally shared by members of a, yes. The trust administrator is not a lone ranger making all these decisions on their own. There is a trust committee, which is similar to a board. Yes. And they get together and make all the hard decisions about whatever comes up, including distributions, trust assets, legal action, amendments to the trust, whatever the case might be. Anything of any significance, any importance pertaining to the trust or any of the trusts, the committee would meet and make those decisions. 3, the trust administrator must often be.
Hi, morning. How are
Good
y'all
morning.
doing?
We're fine. Who's this?
This is Deandra
This
Hutchison.
is my foot, Deandra.
Sorry, I'm still under the weather, but what was the answer for 2?
Okay, well, you know what? Even though you still showed up, you're still here. That's what matters. And not only all that, you're still interested in the answer for question what?
2, please.
Way to go. What's the answer for 2, anyone? The trust committee.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and the interesting thing about these self-assessment questions, they kind of remind you of the core things that you read in the chapter. Not everything. These are not substitutes for going back and outlining the important points in the chapters or units, but they certainly do focus on some of the important things. All right, number 3, the answer is knowledgeable. We know that for sure. so many responsibilities of the trust administrator. 4, additionally, trust administrators should understand and be knowledgeable of the
Trust laws.
trust laws, yes, by all means. All right. Number 5. The trust administrator is encouraged to,
Trust instrument.
review the trust instrument and documents and to familiarize themselves, etc., with regards to the beneficiaries and their entitlements, obviously. The more knowledgeable you are about these things, the better job you do. The less knowledgeable you are, you don't do such a great job. Not only do not do such a great job, you might find yourself in jeopardy somewhere because of your ignorance. And of course, like the law, ignorance of the requirements of beneficiaries is not an excuse for the trust administrator. Number 6, Section 83 of the Trustees Act, 1998 allows beneficiaries to inspect trust deeds, trust accounts, and other trust documents except trust minutes, yes. Number 7, the trust administrator must also take special care to ensure that amendments to the trust instrument are done in accordance with any
Express power.
expressed powers of the trust instrument. So whatever amendments you're going to do, before you do them, you have to go to the instrument and see if there's anything in there governing amendments, period, including the ability to amend it in the first place. All right. So that trust instrument should be like the trust administrator's Bible. It should be in that drawer right here or on the desk. Oh yeah, so if anything comes up, you'd be like, instrument first. Let me see what this says. Even though somebody might tell you, Mr. and Miss Administrator, we are the attorneys for the firm and we're satisfied that this is the way to go. You're like, thank you very much, and hang up. Then you open your instrument like this and have a look anyway. Yeah, because some administrators just take everybody's word.
CYA.
Yes, you got it. Let me just put brackets here. It's in the Bible. Okay, absolutely. All right, it's like this word. Assume, boy, that's a serious thing. People have been killed on assumption, right? Like a guy sees this girl talking to somebody like this, and he assumes, see, he walks right up to the guy and shoots him or beats him half to death. But then find out, that's my brother. Say, well, what the second guy? I thought in Bohemianese. Just because he saw him standing there, he didn't make any inquiry like who that was. He kissed my foot. That's a hell of an assumption. And some people have actually lost their lives. That's the final, just because of an assumption. And the reason for that, assume makes a out of, and that's deep.
That's the Latin.
Yes, it's a Latin word. But it's something to keep in mind, because it's a hell of a thing we still do.
Yeah.
We still keep assuming stuff before we find out what's really going on. Sick. And all too often, all right. The amendment to the trust instrument must be clear and, that funny word, unequivocal, without a doubt. Okay. Without a doubt. Number 9, the trust instrument should not only protect and preserve trust property due to proposed amendments, etc., but also ensure that the legal protections and remunerations are in place. They are key to any amendment. Legal protections are in place and remuneration requirements are in place. Number 10, Not only should trust administrator ensure that legal formalities to effectuate, et cetera, and the amendments, et cetera, et cetera. The key is, once again, the legal formalities. Always absolutely crucial to make sure that, first of all, the legalities are in place, and then secondly, the remuneration is in place, your money. See, the legalities and remuneration. Whatever the amendments might be. By all means. All right, so now there's no doubt, no mistake of the super importance of the trust administrator. There's no doubt and no mistake about what goes into the retirement and the removal of the trustee. And there's no mistake that the duties and powers of the trustee are insurmountably huge, correct? That's the 4 units in a nutshell. Make no mistake though, it's no nutshell, okay? You need to be familiar with all of the tenets of all of those areas. Remember also, of a duty and a power, which one is mandatory? The duty. Which one is optional? Does being optional make it less important? No, equally important. Okay. Because failure to exercise a power, even though it's not mandatory, can find you can find yourself in breach of trust. And obviously, clearly, failure to follow through on a duty is a direct violation. And beneficiaries will have no problem running you into court.
So what is normally part in stage 2?
Say it again?
What is normally addressed in stage 2
Of the course? We get more into the details of the duties and powers of the trustee, more details into the trust administrator's work, more details into the persons who are part of making the corporate trustee function, like the accounting side, because you do trust accounting, the legal aspects of it, what the lawyers are involved in creating the trust document and so on. Okay, so part 2 is going to expand significantly on the principles of part 1. Okay, so more cases, more accounting that you haven't seen in part 1, much more. Okay, so that you can see how trust assets are accounted for, how financials are considered and prepared, etc., and all the works of the agents and persons who are involved in assisting the trust administrator in administering the trust. By all means. I think the institute is planning to run it next semester. If they do it while this stuff is fresh in your mind. Okay, one way or the other, and get it out of the way. Because sometimes you put it off and then they don't run it for another year, and then you're like, in Levette's case, she has her first baby, marries a man. I'm not doing that. And then in her case, she like on baby number 2. So, oh my God, man, to hell with them in their part 2. I'll do it later. So you don't find yourself doing it until sometime later. All right, for sure. All right, I have one more article I'd like you guys to see. But before I get into this and we break, any other questions? Because you pretty much raise them along the way anyway. All right. So I'm gonna have, let's see, Siobhan, read this article. It's an article out of the Step magazine. What is interesting about, I don't know how I ended up running across this article, but what is interesting about this article is that it's based on a Bahamas trust. That's why I wanted us to see this, so that you can, and this was in the Step article for, I think, the last edition. So here we are in the thick of stuff, and now we get into it. And it's headed the X factor. And the question is, what is an X factor? Or just we have enough problems with crypto? Now we have an X factor case that is emanating from the Bahamas situation. So have a look at this. Let's have a look at this. You can start with the X factor, read a little piece, and then begin there.
Okay.
Mhm.
Did you do staff?
Sorry,
Did you do staff also?
if I,
Did staff?
yes, I'm a long-standing step member from back in the day.
So you would say it would be good to do that as well.
Yes, if you plan to be in trust in the state administration for indefinitely, by all means. When you're done with this, go ahead and suffer through that one, after 1 and 2. Then sign up to do the step designation,
This one's in my job.
okay? Yeah, so that one day, especially if you plan to be in that business for a while, you can become a TEP. Yes, after you've done your examinations. Yeah. So you guys are on the right path. Do 1 and 2, get warmed up. I'll give you a lot of information to do your day-to-day work now, and then when you, as soon as you can enroll. Some of you might be fortunate enough to get your employer to pay because it's not cheap. It's, yeah, like some 2,500 or something. But that's okay. Get your employer to pay if you can, and try and do it as quickly as possible before policies and procedures. Something crypto happens. Creepy. All right. Okay, Siobhan, let's go the X factor.
The X factor. Chevron Gay discusses mental capacity and the conflict of laws following a recent decision in the Supreme Court of the Bahamas.
Man, kiss my foot. Now, remember, I don't know, we had our discussion on mental capacity, but mental capacity is one of those criteria that must be proven before a trustee can act as a trustee. Remember, you have to be 18 or over. You have to be of sound mind. Sui, what's that word? Yes, sui juris. Sui juris. Of sound mind. Okay, that is equal to mental capacity. I don't know how mental capacity issue ended up here again. It was a strange thing, and then with the Bahamas these days. Okay, let's see what it says, Siobhan.
In Re-X Foundation Trust, the Supreme Court of the Bahamas faced.
Kiss my foot, we're in the doggone. I don't know if that excites you guys like me, but man, what are we doing in it? The Supreme Court of the Bahamas is sitting in the international step, Mike, and so practically the whole world of trust and administration is reading that. Okay, imagine that. I hope it's not for worse. Let's see.
Faced an application for judicial advice from the trustee regarding the issues of mental capacity of the settler.
Now, before she goes on, the trustee has made a case to the Supreme Court of the Bahamas to challenge the mental capacity of the settler, because somewhere along the line, the settler has come up with some program apparently that makes the trustee wary about whether or not that settler has the ability or capacity to settle or make such a decision. Maybe we'll see. Whatever it is, it has caused the trustee to petition the courts. Now, maybe unless you guys haven't gotten it yet, whenever something goes to court, consider it to be a major issue. We don't just go to court as a trustee just because you have nothing to do.
So you think there was something wrong with the deed?
We'll see. Mental capacity. Let's see. Keep reading, Siobhan.
And the multiplicity of actions launched in foreign countries and the conflict of laws issues that stem from the capacity proceeding. This case presents a unique opportunity to discuss these controversial areas of international trust law and practice, and to see what Bahamian trust law provides to settlers that choose it as the governing law of their trust.
Couple of things, see? That's why I pulled out that article. I don't know what made me. And you know, I just kind of picked it up and thumbed through it, and all of us, because I wasn't really looking for that. Strange things happen. And I'm like, wait a minute, this is something interesting for my students before we break, so that you can see after all the academic stuff that this crap happens in the real world. Not only in the real world, but who's starring in this one? The Bahamas, our Supreme Court, making decisions at this level that have what? international trust implications. Kiss my foot. Okay, so all of a sudden, can you read that little piece again, Siobhan, that you just read?
This case presents a unique opportunity to discuss these controversial areas of international trust law and practice, and to see what Bahamian trust law provides to settlers that choose it as the governing law.
Governing law, yes. Uh-huh.
Of their trust.
Indeed. So now, not only do we have the trust being administered under the Trustee Act of 1998 and its amendments of 211, et cetera, but also, so it's being governed by the Trustee Act. Otherwise, it wouldn't be in our court, right?
Right.
And then the Bahamas is the governing law jurisdiction, which means that whatever we say here goes
Right.
as far as the disposition with regards to the trust assets. Yes, my foot. Okay, let's see what happens.
This case essentially raises the topical question of the rocket launcher and the rocket raised by Professor Jonathan Harris, QC, in his article as it relates to transitional trust. The former concerns those preliminary matters necessary for the creation of the trust, such as the capacity of the settler to dispose of the property on trust, the vesting of the property in the trustee on trust, and the validity of the formal instrument creating the trust. The latter governs matters affecting the trust once it has come into existence, such as the role of the trustee, the administration of the trust, and the relationship between the trustee and beneficiary.
All of which we've been talking about the last 3 weeks, haven't we?
Right.
The role of the trustee, the relationship with beneficiaries, and the disposition of trust assets. That's where all the action is.
In this case, the settler was an elderly man in his jurisdiction of residence and the initial appointer of the X Foundation. In 2003, the settler purportedly appointed one of his daughters to be his successor, appointer upon his resignation, disability, or death. The following year, the settler purportedly appointed his son to be his daughter's successor, appointer. In 2019, the settler purported to execute a series of documents appointing the son as the appointer. Shortly after this, in the same year, the trustee determined that the settler was mentally incapacitated
Mhm.
and had so been when he executed the 2019 document.
Which means that if that is in fact so, then the 2019 documents are,
So
yeah, boy,
he started in 2003.
Mhm.
He set it up for his daughter.
to be the appointer, which is fine, no question there.
It was in 2019 when he made the son the successor of the daughter.
No, a year after he
So that's
made the
2004.
right.
So then in 2019, he came back and
And
appointed.
did some
his
other
His
stuff.
son
As
as the
the-
appointer
What is it, appointer now?
instead of the daughter.
Oh, the successor.
Yes,
Oh. So
okay,
he-
and
so he's trying to switch it.
Right,
yeah, and
And he
and
already wrote that this is what she's gonna be.
right.
yeah,
and
but the
he was
2019 is supposed to
successful.
override that. But the
Yeah.
trustee felt that by 2019, he did not have the capacity to sign those
From
documents.
2003, when he was a quote unquote sounder mind.
Yeah,
2002, 2004,
2019,
the 2019.
he was fine.
Right.
They just felt that
16
at
years
2009,
after.
yeah. But remember, mental incapacity can occur anytime.
Anytime, right?
Just so happens that the trustee is saying in 2019, when those documents are executed, this guy was not in his right mind. Let's see what happens.
Oh, wow.
Well, that's a long boy.
Yeah. Accordingly, the trustee recognized the daughter to be the appointer.
See, the trustee recognized the daughter to be the appointer because she was appointed when he was of sound mind. And that when those documents were finally done in 2019, the trustee was not of the opinion that the settler had the capacity. Okay,
The basis of the trustee's conclusion included a medical report from the
See that?
settler's doctor.
so they didn't make that up. They came up with proof because you can't just say it, you have to prove it.
Mhm.
So the trustee brought their doctor and say, I certified this guy was not competent at the time he signed those documents. Keep going.
Confirming that he had advanced Alzheimer's disease complicated by a subdural hemorrhage, and evidence from a representative of the trustee that At a meeting with the settler, he cannot remember significant information. The
Not
settler-
uncommon.
So who made him go to the doctor?
Probably went.
No, they requested it.
Probably, but the
So
family
this
probably
trustee-
can.
Yeah, the trustee would say, we would like to have the settler
And how's
assess.
the results
Exactly,
sent to us?
exactly.
Okay.
And in this case, obviously, the settler agreed, and it was determined that he had Alzheimer's
Because they
according to,
didn't lie, 'cause they could have lied too.
well, we'll see. Let's see if there's any lying.
Interesting.
The son asserted that the trustee's conclusion on mental capacity was rushed and provided contrary
So this ain't
medical
what he
evidence. Mhm. The son and daughter each commenced proceedings before the courts of the settler's jurisdiction of residence regarding his mental capacity.
See, both was, one was saying he had the capacity, one was saying he didn't.
Mm.
Keep going.
The daughter's mental health proceedings, the MH proceedings, concern the settler's present mental capacity, and the son's historic capacity proceedings concern the settler's mental capacity to execute the 2019 documents. The daughter contended that she is the appointer since the settler lacked mental capacity to appoint the son, which he purported to do in 2019.
Mhm.
The son asserted that the settler had at all material times mental capacity, thereby making him the proper appointer.
And of course, they're making arguments to their lawyer, right? Okay, they're not doing it personally.
No.
Okay,
The trustee therefore applied under S 77(1) of the Trustee Act 1998
so that's us.
Us,
So yeah, like, okay, what's that?
by way of the trustee statement for directions of the court pending the determination of the proceedings before the foreign court.
So that section allowed the Bahamas trustee to make application to the court for these proceedings regarding mental capacity.
The trustee sought the Supreme Court's direction regarding the steps, if any, the trustee should take towards the MH proceedings and the HC proceedings. Whether the trustee should administer the trust on the basis that the settler is incapacitated and the daughter is the appointer pending determination of the MH proceedings and the HC proceedings.
So our lawyers were dribbling when this case was going on, like, oh, a lot of legal fees for us. They couldn't even sleep at night. Man, I can't sleep. Okay,
That's a lot.
Whether the trustee may properly refuse to disclose trust documents to the settler determined to be incapacitated son or any representatives pending determination of the settler's capacity in the MH proceedings and HC proceedings, and the steps the trustee should take upon the final determination of the MH proceedings and HC proceedings.
again, these are the petitions that are made by the trustee now, to the trustee's attorneys to say, hey, we don't want to give any information to the settler or anybody else because the settlers deemed to be incapacitated and the siblings are fighting.
Right,
So we need the court's direction on this.
right.
We don't want to get in this nonsense at all.
Daughter
MH is the
And
daughter
son.
and HC is the son.
Yes.
The Supreme Court held that the trustee shall not be required to take any steps concerning either the MH proceedings or the HC proceedings before the foreign court.
Before the what?
The foreign court.
In other words, if you bring it in a foreign jurisdiction, hey, there are
different
no proceedings because this case is being governed,
by the Bahamian law, which is.
Jurisdiction.
common law.
yeah, our jurisdiction,
Right.
according to our trustee laws, not the international trustee laws.
Did they say where they were from?
No.
Keep reading, let's see.
The trustee did not rush to judgment
Interesting
in
question.
declaring the settler to be incapacitated. This determination was based on all the facts and surrounding circumstances available to the trustee, including medical evidence. The trustee is therefore obliged to recognize the daughter as the appointer. The trustee may continue to administer the trust on the basis that the settler is incapacitated and the daughter is the appointer, pending determination of the settler's capacity in the foreign court proceedings.
In other words, the trustee is being allowed to operate under the original position where the daughter is the
First
appointer,
act, yeah.
unless it can prove, until it can be proven otherwise.
Right.
Okay,
The trustee does not have to disclose any trust documents to the settlor as they have been determined to be incapacitated. The son or any representatives pending final determination of the settlor's capacity in the extent foreign court proceeding.
Indeed, because of course, obviously, the son and daughter are outside of the Bahamas jurisdiction. Okay, but clearly, the trustee is not gonna be made to disclose documents to the son because he is the one who has a dispute, and that dispute has not been resolved. Okay? All right,
It would be wrong for the court to give directions as to the outcome of proceedings before a foreign court, as the court ought not to direct the trustee to fetter its discretion now when the future decisions of the foreign courts is unknown. It is a matter of trite Bahamian trust law that according to the Choice of Governing Laws Act, once the governing law of the trust is Bahamian law, then Bahamian law is the governing law of the trust regarding the capacity of the settlor.
period. No matter what international court decision is made. Once the trustee document says that the Bahamas is the governing law position, then our laws will prevail regarding the capacity or anything else for that matter.
However, as Francis Trigger, QC correctly argued,
Okay.
in Re-Ex Foundation Trust, there can be no technical legal obligation to the issue of capacity being determined by the foreign court and then followed by the trustee. In paragraph 28 of the Supreme Court judgment, Her Ladyship Justice Charles states the ratio descending
Mhm.
that Mr. Trigger, QC submits that the TCOGLA makes various provisions as to the law which governs various questions associated with trust, but is for good reason, silent on the question of jurisdiction in which these questions should be determined. He next submits that it is entirely consistent with the provisions of the statute for the foreign court to determine the settlor's capacity at the time when the appointed documents were executed, and for the Bahamian court to direct the trustee to follow and adopt the conclusions of the foreign court on the question of capacity.
That's his position, but I'm sorry for him that is not necessarily going to be the case. Okay, the foreign courts may say that this guy had capacity in favor of the son and try to get the Bahamian court to act on it, but the Bahamian court has no obligation to do it. No, let's see what happens.
But wouldn't the QC notice from beforehand?
QC represents the son. He's gonna
but
do-
I mean,
That's
wouldn't
we
he-
also, okay.
But wouldn't he notice from beforehand that the law is the law of where the jurisdiction?
Sure, but that won't stop him in his defense of the son to get the son to get his way.
So he can get his money.
Sure, they know in advance these things.
Yes, well, number-
It's just like the lawyer who's defending a murderer. Many lawyers know they did it, but they still have to say, my client didn't do it. And you can't do anything until you prove it, even though the lawyer know he did it.
Yes, reasonable doubt.
No, he knows, but because he's the defense lawyer, he has to act as if he doesn't know. How about that? Same principle.
I make some preliminary observations cognizant of the fact that this issue will be properly ventilated before the foreign court when the stay application is heard. The governing law of the settlement deed is the law of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. In addition, section 7(1)(a) of the TCOGLA is clear that the issue of capacity of the settler is governed by Bahamian law. In those circumstances, the Bahamian court would have jurisdiction, perhaps not exclusive, to hear the issue on the capacity of the settler if it were asked to do so.
If it were, asked to do so. So if you have your own thing in international court and you found the guy to be blah, 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 you can present your findings and make your requests. But at the end of the day, our local courts will determine the final say, given the information before them, including your information internationally.
It seems obvious that the foreign court has in personam jurisdiction over the settler because he resides there.
It would seem that way because he resides there, and maybe it's left out for a reason, okay? But it doesn't matter where he resides. What matters is what governs the trust.
Right.
What's the governing law for the trust? You could live anywhere in the world as a settler. But if the Bahamas is your governing law for your trust, then the Bahamas has the final decision.
So was
But
the
you know-
trust executed though?
Yeah, it
Is that
was.
It's still ongoing too.
Yeah, the trust is
The
executed.
trustee just using
The
the
trustee
dollar
is just
instead of the
saying,
term.
look, this 2019 set of documents is invalid because the guy, according to our information, is, yeah, is suffering from Alzheimer's.
2003, that should stand.
Sure, because he was of
sound
sane
mind.
mind. He had surgeries then. Okay, now it's just that her brother is trying to
He
get,
wanna be greedy.
well, no, well, obviously,
In a
he
way.
wants to be the
But
appointer.
wanna
He wants
be
the
in
power to
control.
run the trust.
Yeah.
All right, so he's talking to these people internationally to get the international courts to somehow persuade
Overthrow
them.
that.
Yeah,
Mhm.
wasting money. If you could have consulted a local attorney and find out that the court, it's a local jurisdiction and that's it,
Right.
but it doesn't stop people from trying. Mhm.
Here's the conclusion.
Okay, hold on it.
The ruling of the Supreme Court in Re-Ex Foundation Trust is undoubtedly a landmark decision that effectively addresses a controversial area of international trust law. The Bahamas is not a party to the Pew Convention on the law applicable to trust and on their recognition. Since the trustee did not submit to the jurisdiction of the foreign court, it may avail itself of subsection 8B of the Trust Choice of Governor Law Amendment Act 2016, the amended act.
Of the Bahamas, yes.
Mhm. Section 8B of the amended act states that it deletes paragraph B of the principal act and substitutes the following provision.
Mhm.
The trust or disposition potentially avoids or defeats claims, interests, obligations, or liabilities conferred or imposed by foreign law upon any person by reason of a personal relationship to the settler or any beneficiary, or by way of heirship rights, or contravenes any rule of foreign law or any foreign judicial or administrative order or action intended to recognize, protect, enforce, or give effect to any such claims, interests, obligations, or liabilities. Such a statutory provision arguably protects the Offshore Asset Protection Trust from a foreign court order giving effect to any such claim, interest, obligation, or liability under foreign law.
So the foreign court can make an action, give an instruction, but we are not obligated to respond to it if the governing law is the Bahamas, period. If the governing laws is that international jurisdiction, fine, then we are guided by that. But if the governing law is the Bahamas, we make the final decision as to what's going to happen with the disposition or any action with regards to that trust, period.
This includes the foreign court order from the MH proceedings and HC proceedings that will not be enforceable in the Bahamas if the trustee is not a party to those proceedings.
And we are not a party. We do not sign up because we're saying, once the Bahamas is the governing law and other jurisdictions in the Caribbean as well, and other areas as well, like Cayman and a few other places, Isle of Man and so on. Once they are designated as the governing law jurisdiction, they are not subject to any external influence in terms of the decision they make.
So IBC is that would be the governing
Uh,
national business company.
Oh, no, IBC is just another vehicle that a trust, because remember, trusts have underlying companies. And an IBC is just another underlying company. Doesn't change the position of the trustee, who has responsibility for all the assets of the trust, including underlying companies. Okay? So in this case, the local trustee is saying, we're not obligated to respond to any international influence. As far as mental capacity is concerned, our records show that the person did not have the mental capacity, and therefore we are not recognizing it.
That was a good thing.
Absolutely. And of course, the international courts are trying to twist our arm through the brother, because they want the brother to, their client, to be the appointer. And he had the right to try.
Hopefully you don't try to kill the system.
It wouldn't have been the first time that, and even then, that would probably not change the position, because that would not automatically make him the appointer anyway,
No.
in this particular case.
Wonder if they were children of the same household.
Possibly. Whether they're the same household or not, the same problem exists anyway. Yes, when people want control, they will do whatever is necessary.
And then, what clause the settler might have in there because
The
know,
son,
they
they know
get-
how his son was.
they get the beneficiary. I mean, you get your certain amount as a beneficiary, and then you might get more as an appointment.
No doubt. Yeah, no doubt there was a
So
greater
the son
benefit.
knew that.
Yes, that's why he wanted to be the appointer.
Uh-huh.
Okay, because obviously whoever the appointer was had certain powers. And he wanted to have that ability to manage and control the trust to whatever extent being the appointer would allow him to do.
But you never know if his dad was in a sound mind. He could have been the one that influenced his dad to 2019
Right.
and tell his dad, hey.
Of course, happens all the time. Now, being influenced is different from not having mental incapacity, because Alzheimer's is clearly out of it.
Yeah.
Now, being influenced doesn't mean that you could be of sound mind. Somebody just persuaded you by sweet talking you in one form or another to get you to agree. That cannot be disputed. If you agree because you were sweet talked into it, that's not a problem. That's normal stuff. But if you have Alzheimer's, that's a problem.
That's
Or if somebody puts a gun to your head and say, I'll blow your flicking brains out if you don't do it, then that's duress. That will not hold either. But sweet talking, you can't use that as a defense. They sweet talk me into it. See my point?
You knew what the intent was.
Sure. If somebody sweet talks you into something, you're of sound mind generally.
You know?
You just agree. Just like when they say send $1 million and we'll send you a big return and you send your money and never see it again. Okay? All right. You guys have been fantastic. Good luck with the rest of the stuff. If you decide to do part 2, which I suggest you do, as soon as it becomes available, please go ahead and do it. And then once you're done with that, if you're going to continue your career in trust, and contact STEP about their TEP, do the diploma and get on with it. That's usually the way for persons who are in this business. All right. So good luck. I'm sure I'll see you guys again somewhere. Let me just leave my contact.
So you're gonna do part 2, right?
I'll be doing a portion of that, no doubt.
Okay.
Okay, let me just leave my contact in case you may wish to call or make touch base for some reason. 565-9551. And my email address is sjhwilkinson@hotmail.com. And apart from trust and compliance consulting, I do all kinds of crazy stuff, so call me. Okay, I've seen all kind of weird things, all kind of information about this and that. So feel free, if you have an issue, if you can't reach me by phone or text, send me an email, I'm always checking it. Say, hi, this is Levette, Siobhan, whatever the case, Shay, and I'll be happy to respond. In the meantime, good luck to you youngsters as you start your careers. You're quite welcome. My pleasure.
Thank you, Mr. Wilkinson.
Quite welcome. Take care and good luck.
All right, thanks.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye. You sound a little like me getting out. I don't feel too badly anymore.
So now for 2 hours,
Yeah, it's no child's play.
3 hours.
3 hours. Thank you very much.
You are a great
Thank you very
teacher.
much, you guys. Thank you so much, Levette.
Can't wait for part 2.
I appreciate that. Take care.
See you later.
Bye-bye.